Hey you guys, thanks for checking out this video. Today I'm going to be going over the muscles of the leg. We're going to be going in a pretty orderly fashion from superior to inferior on the anterior portion of the leg. Then I'll discuss them from superior to inferior on the posterior portion of the leg. And then we'll talk about the muscles, the abductor muscles in the middle of the leg, as well as the adductor muscle on the outside. Following me going through them, I'm actually going to post pictures of this model with arrows pointing to different muscles and give you a chance at the end of the video to label them yourselves at home. So if you feel like you already know this model well enough and you just want to test yourself, go ahead and skip ahead in the video to the point where you start to see those images popping up. But if you want a lesson on them, I'm obviously going to be doing that right now. And I have some pretty unique ways, I think, of helping to remember some of these muscles, because some of them can get a little bit tricky when you're trying to recall them, especially for an exam. So hopefully some of the tips and tricks that I'll give you will help you recall them. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. The very first muscle that we're going to see is the psoas major. It's this muscle up here, and it runs into the pelvic region. We then have our iliacus. The iliacus is given its name due to the fact that it's in relation to the ilium, your hip bone. All right, now we're going to see down here the sartorius, I'm sorry, the sartorius. The sartorius is actually the longest muscle in the body. A nice way to remember this one is the fact that it's actually, you can use your imagination, shaped like an S. So this is the sartorius, the longest muscle in the body, runs right here. The next group of muscles that I'm going to be discussing are the quadriceps, also referred to as the quads. The quadriceps get their name due to the fact there's 4 muscles that make up that group. The very first one being the rectus femoris. Okay. The following are the remaining 3 muscles. A lot of people have trouble recalling the names of these, and one thing to know is that they all start with the term vastus. A nice way to jog your memory in the exam about the fact that these 3 are the ones that start with vastus. When I remove the rectus femoris, if you can use your imagination a little bit here, we actually created this space here that kind of looks like a V. Okay, so I like to think that the next 3 start with the term vastus, and we have the V right here. So the first one is going to be the vastus medialis, given to the fact that it's towards the midline of the body. We have the vastus intermedius, which is going to be running inside here, and that's intermedius referring to the fact that it's between the vastus medialis and the vastus lateralis on the outside here, lateral, right, for the outside. So one more time, vastus medialis, vastus intermedius, vastus lateralis. The final muscle on the anterior portion of the leg that I'm going to be discussing is the tibialis anterior. This one should come naturally as well, as long as you understand the bones in the body. This is your tibia right here, okay? And so the tibialis anterior is anterior to the tibia, so hence the term tibialis anterior. All right, going on to the back of the leg. Again, we're going to be going from superior to inferior. The first thing we're going to be seeing is our gluteus maximus. This is your butt. So the gluteus maximus is right here. Gluteus medius, seen right here. Okay, and the gluteus minimus would actually be deep to the gluteus medius, so we can't see it on this model, so for the sake of this model, I'm just going to be pointing to the gluteus medius. Okay, you can also actually see the gluteus medius up here, even when we have the gluteus maximus on top. So, all right. The next set of muscles that we're going to be seeing are the hamstrings. The hamstrings are in charge of the of flexion in the leg, whereas the quadricep muscles in the front were responsible for extension. The hamstrings are going to be responsible for flexion. So the very first, it's going to be made up of 3 muscles, the biceps femoris, the semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. I'll break all those down for you right now, but just be familiar with the fact there are 3 muscles that make up the hamstrings. So the very first one is going to be the biceps femoris, femoris referring to the femur, the main bone in the leg, and biceps referring to the fact that you have this flexion motion. So a nice way to actually remember this is if you can imagine your leg in relation to your arm, this is your bicep muscle right here in your arm. If you were to take your leg right, and make it like an arm, and you did the flexion motion, right, this would be your bicep, much like this was your bicep in your arm. So the bicep femoris, okay, it's lateral, it's on the outside over here. The next two that we're going to see that make up the hamstrings, again, are the semimembranosus and the semitendinosus. The semimembranosus runs deep to the semitendinosus, so we see it on the sides right here, okay? And then the semitendinosus runs on top. A nice way to remember this is that the semitendinosus, especially in this model, becomes a pretty long tendon right here. So semitendinosus and the semimembranosus is deep to that. The next muscle that we'll look at is the gastrocnemius, your calf muscle, so it's going to be these two. And then a little bit more inferior, we find the soleus. Soleus is right here. It's running on either side deep to the calcaneal tendon, a tendon that a lot of people refer to as the Achilles tendon. If we take this off, we can also see the soleus muscle right here as well. Okay, going into the middle, we're now going to be talking about the abductor muscles, or I'm sorry, adductor muscles. The adductor muscles are called adductor because what they do is they add a structure back to the midline of the body. So you can imagine that if my leg was out and I wanted to bring it back in, I would contract these muscles, my adductor muscles, all right, to add my leg back to the midline. That's where they get their name. We have three muscles that make these up. We have the adductor longus, the adductor magnus, and then the gracilis. People get adductor longus and adductor magnus confused a lot. One of the ways that I like to think about it is the fact that the adductor magnus is more towards the middle of the leg, and the adductor longus is in front. So magnus for middle, M for magnus, M for middle. That might help you out. And then the longus is in front. The final one, the gracilis, this is actually a pretty easy one to remember if you can remember this. Think about a ballerina, okay? And ballerinas we consider to be very graceful people. And one of their moves that they do is where they bend their legs out like this, right? It's a graceful pose. And in order to do that, they need to contract this muscle, the gracilis, okay? So the gracilis makes a ballerina graceful. The final muscle that I'm going to be discussing is your abductor muscle. Okay, so whereas before I was talking about the adductor muscles adding the leg back to the midline, an abductor is a muscle that's going to take something away from the midline. To abduct means to take away. So an abductor muscle, if I contract that, it's going to allow me to move my leg away from the midline of the body. And this is actually one of my favorite muscles just because of the name. I think it's got a really unique name. It's called the tensor fascia latae. So don't really see terms like that very often, so I think it's an easy one to remember. Tensor fascia latae, it's your abductor muscle, and that is actually going to be it. So again, if you want to review this material one more time, or as many times as you want, keep on going back to the beginning of the video and watching it over and over. If you want to continue on and think that you're ready to test yourself, just keep on watching this video. I will have those photos posted in just a second here, and I'll point to them. Pause the video, answer whatever it is that I'm asking, and then I'll actually throw the answer up on the screen. So you can not only check that you have the name right, but you can also check your spelling as well. So, all right, thanks again for watching this video, and I'll hopefully see you soon on another video. All right, you guys, so welcome to part 2 of the video. Again, the way that this is going to work, I'm just going to throw an arrow up on the screen pointing to a specific muscle. At that point, when you see the arrow come up, if you can go ahead and pause the video, and then after a few seconds, I'll go ahead and throw the answer up. But if you want to pause the video, answer it, and then hit play again, and I'll throw the answer up for you, just so you can test yourself. All right, so starting off, let's go ahead. We're going to go to the most superior muscle that we see with the arrow is pointing to it right now. It's going to go into the pelvic region. Okay, that is the psoas major. Next, please name the muscle at the tip of the pointer. It's in relation. Its name comes from being in relation to the ilium, that hip bone. All right, that's going to be the iliacus. please name this muscle at the tip of the pointer. It's the longest muscle in the body, and it's shaped like an S. All right, that's going to be the sartorius muscle. Next, we're going to move on into the quadricep region. So if you can name this muscle at the tip of the pointer. Okay, that is going to be the rectus femoris. And if you can name this muscle at the tip of the pointer. Okay, that is going to be the vastus medialis. Can you please name this muscle at the tip of the pointer? Okay, that's going to be the vastus lateralis. And although I can't show it in this picture, there's a muscle that runs in between the vastus lateralis and the vastus medialis. It runs deep to the rectus femoris. What would that muscle be? Okay, good. That would be the vastus intermedius. All right, and the final muscle that we're going to see on this image is going to be at the tip of the pointer, if you can name that. All right, that is the tibialis anterior. Again, it's anterior to the tibia, that bone that's just beneath it. So tibialis anterior makes a lot of sense when you see it in relation to that bone. All right, moving to the back of the leg. Can you please name this muscle at the tip of the pointer? All right, that is the gluteus maximus. And can you also name this muscle at the tip of the pointer? Okay, that's going to be the gluteus medius. Again, if I were to remove the gluteus maximus, you can see the gluteus medius running down deep beneath the gluteus maximus as well. And then you can't see the gluteus minimus on this at all. That's going to be deep to the gluteus medius. All right, moving down to the hamstring region. Can you please name this muscle at the tip of the pointer? Okay, that is going to be the biceps femoris. And if you can name this muscle at the tip of the pointer, it's the one that runs in and starts to become that tendon. Okay, that's going to be the semitendinosus. The next muscle is going to be actually lying just deep to the semitendinosus. You can see it on both sides of the semitendinosus. So I have two arrows pointing to it here. Okay, that's going to be the semimembranosus. Can you please name the muscle at the tip of the pointer? It's going to be your calf muscles. Okay, those are known as your gastrocnemius muscle. And then if you could name the muscle at the tip of the pointer here, it's hard to see just based on the angle that I had taken this photo. It's a muscle that runs deep beneath the calcaneal tendon, or that Achilles tendon. If I were to pull the muscle off though, this whole calf muscle off, I could turn it and you could also see it on the inside as well. Okay, that's going to be the soleus muscle. All right, next we're going to go to our adductor muscles. We have three of them. If you can name the muscle at the tip of the pointer, it's the one in the very front. Okay, that's going to be the adductor longus. If you could name the muscle at the tip of the pointer in the back. Okay, that's going to be the adductor magnus. And then if you can name this muscle at the tip of the pointer, again, this is the one that makes the ballerina graceful. All right, that's going to be the gracilis muscle. So again, remember that graceful ballerina uses the gracilis muscle. It's a nice way to remember it. All right, and then the final muscle that we're going to be looking at here, if you can name this muscle at the tip of the pointer, it's your abductor muscle. Okay, that's going to be the tensor fascia latae. All right, so hopefully you got them all right. If you didn't, no big deal. Just go through and test yourself again. Keep working as much as you can. Again, if you didn't check out the video and just jumped right into this and struggled with it, feel free to check out the actual video that I have before this portion. And there are things that I go over in that video that just kind of have special tips and tricks and things like that to help you remember some of the muscle names. because yeah, they can be pretty difficult to remember. So you know, if you need some extra tips and tricks, yeah, they're right in the video. So anyways, thanks for checking out the video. Feel free to check out my other ones as well, and you know, good luck on your exam.